Okay, so let me just ask you something.
Go for it.
You open up your phone, you see the headlines, all the debt ceiling fights, the protests, the tension
Yeah, the
overseas.
daily chaos.
Right, the chaos. Does it ever feel like, I don't know, like the world has just completely lost the plot? Like none of it makes sense.
It definitely feels that way.
Yeah.
I think for most people, this moment feels um, uniquely fragile.
But what if it's not unique? I mean, that's really the question we're leading into today, because what if all this chaos is actually just a script, a pattern we've seen before?
That is the absolute core of the idea we're exploring.
We are getting into a really dense, really fascinating conversation with Ray Dalio. And for anyone who doesn't know, Dalio isn't some academic historian. He's a macro investor, founded Bridgewater. He spent, what, 60 years betting on the future?
And that's a crucial distinction. He's not studying history to write a book. He's studying it to survive financially. He treats history like a machine. Yeah. His whole view is that if you can understand the mechanics of that machine, the cause and effect, you can see exactly where we are in what he calls the big cycle.
So that's our mission for this deep dive. We're not here to just, panic about the headlines. We're here to take that machine apart.
Right.
We want to understand how empires rise and fall, figure out where the U.S. is right now, and, spoiler, it's a very specific stage, and then see what Dalio thinks is coming next.
Exactly. And the goal is that by the end, you'll have a framework, almost like a weather map. So when you see a headline about inflation or a riot, you won't just see noise.
You'll see a symptom, a data point.
A data point in a very old cycle.
Okay, so let's start there with this idea of a cycle, a loop. Dalio says it's not just one damn thing after another.
No, not at all. He thinks of it as a series of orders. A new order starts usually after a big war when there's a clear winner.
Like 1945.
1945 is the perfect example. America wins World War II, sets the rules, the dollar becomes the world's currency, and boom, you have a system, a new order.
But that system ages. It has a lifespan.
Exactly, like a biological organism.
Yeah.
And just like a doctor checks your vital signs to see how healthy you are, Dalio tracks 5 specific forces to diagnose a civilization.
Okay, so what are the 5? I know the big 3.
Right. Money, internal politics, and external politics. That's what we always talk about.
And he has 2 more that I feel like get completely ignored on the news.
They do, but they are massive. So force 4 is acts of nature.
Pandemics, droughts.
Exactly. And Dalio makes this point that historically, things like droughts and pandemics have actually killed more people and toppled more civilizations than wars have.
That's a huge claim.
Well, think about the mechanics of it. If a country is rich and stable, it can handle a pandemic. It's costly, but it survives.
Right.
But if a country's already broke, already divided, a natural disaster is like the final straw. It just exposes all the cracks that were already there.
So nature is the ultimate stress test. Okay, what's force 5?
Technology. This is the wild card.
The great disruptor.
Completely. Whoever invents the dominant technology, whether it's the cannon in the 1500s or, AI today, that's who wins the economic war. And the military one.
We have to come back to AI because he has a very specific take on whether it can save us from this whole mess. But let's get into the engine room first. Force number 1, money.
The monetary order. Yeah, this is where it all starts. At the beginning of a new order, debt is low. Money is hard.
Okay, wait, let's just define hard money. You don't just mean coins.
No. Hard money just means it's linked to something real that a government can't just invent, usually gold.
So it forces discipline.
It forces discipline. If you want to spend more than you earn, you have to find more gold. But, of course, the economy grows. We all feel rich, and we start to borrow.
We bet on the future. Debt starts to build up.
And it builds until eventually the debt is so huge that just paying the interest starts to crowd everything else out. You can't afford your military or your social programs because all the money's just servicing the debt.
This is starting to sound a little too familiar.
Right. So the government hits a wall, and they have a choice. A really simple binary choice.
Door number 1.
You default. You just say, sorry, we can't pay you back. The whole system crashes. It's a depression. It's honest, but it is incredibly painful.
And no politician ever gets reelected doing that.
Almost never, which is why they always choose door number 2.
They print money.
They print money.
And this is what Dalio calls the hair of the dog.
It's the perfect analogy, isn't it? If you're hungover, having a drink in the morning makes you feel better for a little while.
It takes the edge off.
Exactly. Printing money makes it easier to pay your debts. It juices the economy. It keeps the party going just a little bit longer.
But it doesn't cure the hangover.
No. In fact, it guarantees you're going to have a much, much worse one later. Because now you have inflation. The currency itself is being devalued.
Okay, I want to pause on that because this is the critical link, I think. How does printing money lead directly to force number 2, which is internal conflict, political anger?
This is the absolute key to the machine. When a government prints money, it doesn't just, drop it from helicopters for everyone.
Right.
It goes into the financial system. It buys government bonds, and that pushes up the price of financial assets. Stocks, real estate, gold.
So if I already own assets, I get richer.
You get a lot richer.
Yeah.
But what if you work an hourly job? Your wages aren't going up nearly as fast as your rent or your groceries.
So my actual buying power is going down.
Precisely. The rich get richer because of the policy, and the working class gets poorer in real terms.
And that creates a massive wealth gap.
A massive wealth gap.
Yeah.
And that is the fuel for populism, for polarization, because huge groups of people start to feel, correctly, that the system is rigged against them.
And then a leader comes along and says, I'll fight for you against them.
Exactly. Them can be anyone. The rich, immigrants, a foreign country, it doesn't matter. The whole political mood shifts from cooperation to conflict.
Which brings us to his diagnosis of right now. Dalio looks at the U.S., the debt, the wealth gap, the fighting, and he puts us in a very specific place. Stage 5.
Out of how many stages?
6.
That feels uncomfortably late in the process.
It is.
So what defines stage 5? What does that look like?
He calls it the brink. And it's defined by irreconcilable differences.
So we're not just arguing about how to slice the pie anymore.
Oh, in stage 5, we're arguing about who gets to own the whole bakery. The key symptom is that the system itself, the rules of the game, they come under attack.
We stop trusting the referees.
Exactly. Dalio is very specific about this. Look at how people talk about the Supreme Court or the legal system.
Right.
In stage 5, people stop seeing them as neutral. They see them as weapons being used by the other side.
So if my side wins a case, it's justice. If your side wins, the whole system is rigged.
Precisely. And once you go down that road, winning becomes the only thing that matters, by any means necessary.
He brought up a historical parallel that was, frankly, chilling. He talked about the 1930s. We think of dictators rising to power, but he said that's not quite how it happened. It's a much more subtle and scarier picture. He points out that 4 major democracies, Germany, Italy, Japan, and Spain, they chose to become autocracies.
Why on earth would anyone choose that?
Because the internal fighting got so bad, so gridlocked, that nothing worked anymore. The government couldn't function, there was fighting in the streets, the economy was a disaster.
So people just got tired of the chaos.
They got exhausted.
Yeah.
And they said, we just need someone strong to come in and restore order.
So the chaos of stage 5 creates the demand for a strong man.
Dalio even references Plato on this. Plato argued that the democracy that becomes too chaotic will naturally produce a benevolent despot.
Someone who promises to just fix it if you just give them the power.
Make the trains run on time. And Dalio warns that when you see polling, like we see now, that suggests 25% of the population would be willing to fight violently for their side.
You're in stage 5.
You are deep in stage 5.
So what's the tipping point? What does stage 6, the breakdown, actually look like?
Well, first, he's clear that it doesn't always look like the American Civil War, with armies and battlefields.
Okay.
It's more of a general breakdown of central authority. But he says the transition often starts with something quieter.
Which is?
People voting with their feet.
They just leave.
They leave. If you're in a city or a country where things feel dangerous or the taxes are becoming impossible, you move. You take your money and your skills somewhere else.
We're already seeing some of that internally, people moving from state to state.
We are. But in stage 6, it accelerates. And that's when you can get what he calls financial martial law.
What does that mean?
It means the government panics. They need your tax money to pay their debts. So when you try to leave, they try to stop you and your money from leaving.
Capital controls.
Capital controls. They might ban you from owning gold or make it impossible to move assets out of the country. They trap you.
Which brings us to gold. He's famous for liking gold, but he framed it in a way I hadn't really heard before. It wasn't about getting rich quick.
No, not at all. He sees it as insurance. He had this great line. He said, gold is the only asset that isn't someone else's liability.
Okay, break that down.
Well, think about a dollar bill or a bond. What is it? It's a promise. It's a liability of the U.S. government.
A promise they'll pay me back.
Right. But if that government goes broke or devalues its currency, that promise might not be worth much. Gold is just a thing. It's a physical asset. It doesn't rely on anyone's promise.
So if you're worried the entire system, the order, is at risk, you want something that exists outside of it.
That's the logic. He suggests maybe 5 to 15% of a portfolio in gold, not as a bet, but as a safety net.
Okay, so that is a pretty heavy diagnosis. Stage 5, debt crisis, brink of conflict. So the big question is, can we stop it? Is this inevitable?
His answer is, well, it's honest. He says it's theoretically possible to stop it, but practically it's very, very unlikely.
What, if we can see the machine, why can't we just turn it off?
Because of the political math. To fix the debt crisis without printing money, you have to do what he calls the 3% solution. Get the national deficit down to about 3% of GDP.
Which means raising taxes and cutting spending.
Massive cuts. And, just think about the politics of that. Who is going to run for office saying, vote for me, I'm going to cut your benefits and raise your taxes?
Nobody. You'd get destroyed.
You get destroyed. So the political incentives are all aligned to keep printing the money, which just makes the underlying problem worse. The machine traps the politicians.
What about a miracle? What about technology? We talked about AI. Can't it just make us so productive we can grow our way out of this whole mess?
He loves technology, but he's skeptical about the timing. He thinks the AI productivity boom is real, but it might be, say, 10 years away.
But the debt crisis is here now.
The debt crisis is here now. The interest payments are due today. It's a race. And right now, the debt is winning.
He also mentioned a specific technology that could make things trickier. CBDCs, central bank digital currencies.
Yeah, this connects right back to that idea of control in stage 6.
How so?
If the government issues its own digital dollar, it has total visibility into every single transaction you make.
And if they can see it, they can control it.
They can control it. They could instantly freeze assets, enforce tax collection, stop you from moving money. It's an incredibly powerful tool for a state that's trying to enforce that financial martial law.
Okay. We promised we wouldn't just leave people in a state of anxiety. We have the diagnosis. What's the prescription? What does Dalio say a regular person, a learner, should do?
He had 3 big pieces of advice. And the first one is actually a mindset shift. He says, if you worry, you don't have to worry.
That sounds like a riddle.
It does, but it's really practical. His point is, if you're not worried, you just assume everything's fine. You keep all your money in cash, and that's when you get wiped out in a crisis.
Right.
But if you worry, if you accept that stage 5 is real, then you prepare. You diversify. And because you prepared, you don't have to panic later.
So worry early so you don't have to worry late.
That's it. Then the second piece is financial. We mentioned gold, but the bigger point is just diversification. Don't have all your wealth in one country's currency or bonds.
And the third pillar?
Location and people. This goes back to voting with your feet. He says to look for places that have civility and solvency.
Solvency meaning they're not broke, and civility meaning people can disagree without trying to kill each other.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
And then finally, he says, focus on your own family, your microcycle. The big cycle is mostly out of your hands, but you can raise good, educated, civil kids.
So let's just try to pull this together. The big takeaway here is that the chaos we see every day, it isn't actually random.
No, it's a script. We're in a specific part of the movie. The part where the debt is high, the internal conflict is sharp, and the system is being tested.
And knowing the script doesn't mean you can change the ending for everyone.
No, but it means you don't have to be a helpless victim of it. You can be an observer. You can see the anger on the news and think, that's the internal conflict mechanic kicking in. It gives you some distance.
I want to leave everyone with one final thought from this. We talked about the benevolent despot. The idea that chaos makes people beg for a strong man to fix things.
Right. That's been the historical pattern for 2,000 years.
So the question is, are we any different? Can a modern democracy look stage 5 right in the face, understand the mechanics of the machine, and actually choose to compromise instead of crash?
Or are we just doomed to repeat the same cycle, waiting for our turn?
That is the ultimate test, isn't it? The machine pushes us towards conflict.
But we are the ones at the controls.
A sobering thought. Thanks for walking us through this.
My pleasure. Keep worrying so you don't have to.
We'll see you next time.